Hey there, and welcome to Jim's Kitchen. I'm so happy it's spooky season again. And you know what? I'm ready to cook some spooky foods. I found this exciting cookbook. It's food to die for. And it says it's recipes and stories from America's most legendary haunted places. I'm going to show you 3 fun foods. They're basically desserts, and tell you little haunted stories around them. The first recipe comes from the very haunted prison, Alcatraz. I've been there before, and it is very spooky. But I'm in the mood for some more spookiness. That's more like it. Today, Alcatraz attracts more than 1.5 million visitors a year, who often experience supernatural phenomena. But prison guards and inmates were reporting strange occurrences nearly a century ago. Guards reporting hearing sobbing and moaning and seeing an entity with glowing eyes that they called the Thing. Of all the areas in the prison, cell block D inspired the worst stories. One prisoner in that block was allegedly screaming through the night about a creature with glowing eyes, only to be discovered strangled the next morning. To this day, cell 14D is among the most active paranormal spots in the prison. Another gruesome story about an unexplained death involved a prisoner in the hole who screamed that something with glowing eyes was inside the cell with him and then went silent. He was found dead the next day with visible strangulation marks on his neck. The autopsy concluded the marks were not self-inflicted. I'm cooking something from an actual 1952 Alcatraz cookbook for cinnamon sugar cookies. Let's make them. I need a cup of shortening. Yum! A cup and a half of sugar and 2 eggs. Combine that together. 2 3/4 cup of flour. 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar, teaspoon of baking soda, half teaspoon of salt. Mix that together until a dough forms. You need to cover it and then let it chill for 6 to 12 hours. In a bowl, I need to combine 2 tablespoons of sugar with 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I need to form that dough into 1-inch balls, roll it in the cinnamon mix, and place on a cookie sheet 2 inches apart. And then you bake them in a 400-degree oven for 8 to 10 minutes. They're ready. Let's let them cool a bit. Cinnamon sugar cookies from Alcatraz. They're wonderful. They're like a glorified snickerdoodle crinkle cookie. But it's from Alcatraz. Our next recipe deals with the Salem witch trials. One of the main people that's involved in the witch trials was John Proctor. He had accused his servant Mary Warren of displaying fits of demonic possession. He would beat Mary to correct her behaviors. It seemed like Mary was starting to act normally until Proctor went on a business trip. And when he was away, her strange symptoms returned, and she joined the Salem witch trials and accused him of witchcraft. He was accused and hung on Gallows Hill. His body was taken away and buried on the site of a property. And on this property, a house was built. The John Proctor house, built by his family. It was in the Proctor family for over 150 years. After that, they've sold it to other families, but nobody wants to live there. It's definitely haunted by John Proctor. If you live there, you can get pushed down the stairs or get nosebleeds. Hear voices, hear the piano play. It all happens at the John Proctor house. The recipe I'm making is inspired by that time period. It's Puritan pudding. Let's make it. Puritan pudding is basically a British hasty pudding, or also known as an American Indian pudding. Well, let's give it a try. Grab a pan. I need 4 cups of milk for this recipe, but I only need 3.5 cups for this pan. We need to start and scald that, which means bring it almost to a boil. While that's scalding, grab a bowl. 1/2 cup of cornmeal, teaspoon of ginger, teaspoon of cinnamon, splash of vanilla, 2 eggs, 1/2 cup of molasses, small piece of butter, and a pinch of salt. Mix that together. Mix that with the milk and cook it until thick. I'm going to pour that into a prepared baking dish. We'll start by baking it in a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes. Now you need that extra 1/2 cup of milk. It's cooked for 30 minutes. You pour it on top and you're going to cook it another 30 minutes. Here it is. Scoop that into some bowls. Serve with a scoop of ice cream or whipped cream. Puritan pudding. It's wonderful. Kind of has a gingerbread type taste, like a ginger cornbread pudding type taste. And it's really good. I love these vintage recipes. Our next recipe comes from a former plantation home located on the Mississippi River between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, Louisiana. It's called the Myrtles. It at one point housed 480 enslaved people on its 4,000 acres. There have been many hauntings throughout the property. One popular one is of the spirit of a woman named Chloe. She was an enslaved teenager whom Clark, the former plantation owner, had kept as his concubine until she was caught eavesdropping. As the legend goes, Woodruff cut off one of her ears as punishment. She is said to have hidden her disfigurement with a turban. To regain his good graces, Chloe launched a plan to poison Clark's twin daughters with an oleander-laced cake, just enough to make them sick and then nurse them back to health. But the plan backfired and the girls died. As punishment, she was hanged and her body was cast into the Mississippi River. Historical accounts do point to Chloe, but guests today claim to wake up to a young woman wearing a turban in their guest room, holding a candle and watching over them. The recipe I'll be making is a croissant bread pudding, perfect for dessert or a brunch. Let's get this croissant bread pudding party started. We need 8 croissants and a large baking dish. I'll be ripping them up and throwing them in the bottom of the dish. In a bowl, I need 2 1/4 cups of heavy whipping cream, 3/4 cup of milk, 1 1/2 cups of sugar, 8 eggs. We need a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm going to try this vanilla rooibos. Half teaspoon of salt. Let's whisk that together and pour that mix over the croissant. Press the croissant down into it to get fully coated. On top of that, you're going to pour over a cup of melted butter. Now I'm going to cover that and then let it set for about 2 hours to get all that goodness soaked up. I'm going to put in the refrigerator. Time to throw this in a 325-degree oven for 45 minutes. It's good. Sweet, very buttery. Perfection. And you know what? If you wanted to, you can stay at the Myrtle's. It's a bed and breakfast now, and you can get this right off the menu. It's the most popular thing there. And if you stay there, you might run into a few hauntings. This video is part of a collaboration celebrating Halloween recipes that's hosted by my pals Sunny in the Suburbs and Her Homemaking Heart. To see more Halloween dessert recipes, make sure you check out the link playlist in my description. What do you call a Halloween ball for ghosts? A paraformal activity.